If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get ready for the Ochelli effect.
November 14, 2024, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar. This, the Ochelli effect, on a Thursday. Yes, indeed, I am live. But, of course, if you're not hearing me just after, about 7 minutes after 8 p.m. Eastern, here in what we used to call the United States, you know that place? If you're not hearing me right then and there, then you're hearing the podcast. Welcome to the show one way or another. But if you do want to hear us live, you can just catch us through your radio apps at Ochelli.com radio and all that good stuff. But, of course, the podcast is available most places that podcasts are available. Although I think I've been knocked down off of YouTube again. But anyway, it is what it is, and welcome to it. We're definitely going to keep talking about JFK, at least tonight, and God knows what will happen on the open mic night tomorrow. But I have a feeling it'll come up again. Why? Well, you know what? I'm about a week away from when I got to leave. I'll be on the road going to the Lancer Conference. Okay, so I'll be there, and I'm hoping some of you will join me. Not too many people have used the coupon code. If you go to assassinationconference.com, you can attend virtually or in person, pay over there, but you can get 10% off with the code Ochelli10. All right, so you do that, 10% off, not a bad deal, virtual ticket or in person. I will be in person, the MC of the event, so to speak. Anyway, one of the people I'm going to be introducing is on with me tonight. Now, we spoke to Larry Hancock on Tuesday and definitely had fun talking about the past. But, you know, this guy's name I've heard quite a bit from other people lately, although I don't have the ability to track everybody's work on the case, okay? It's just not possible. But some of my friends kept mentioning this guy, Matt Douthit. Now, I don't know too much about him, but if you go in the live chat room at Ochelli.com, you'll see Facebook, a couple of Facebook groups that I think are his or he's involved with. Also his YouTube channel, and he's written articles for Kennedy's and King. You know, that used to be the Sitka website, DiEugenio's hub over there. So he's written articles over there, which means he had to take his information seriously and offer something of interest. And he's got a YouTube channel, and he does the Facebook group things, and, oh yeah, he's going to be presenting at the Lancer Conference. So what can I say? Matt Douthit, Douthit, okay, unusual name, and I have a feeling he's got some unusual things to say, maybe, about a topic that I know has been covered quite often. But you know what? I'm not actually sure what his presentation is about. I know what he's got up on YouTube. Again, I know a little bit about what's being discussed on Facebook. One of those groups, I think, has to do with the Tippit shooting. And the other one is, just one of those JFK's in the search for the truth kind of things. One of the many groups that, frankly, I don't pay as much attention to as I used to, because I can't stand Facebook, Matt. But anyway, how are you doing tonight, first of all? And let's get to know you, because you haven't been on the show before.
I'm doing good, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, you were suggested several times. I want you to know that.
I paid each one of those people $100.
Oh, nice. Well, look, if you're handing out $100 bills, I'll grab mine when I see you in Dallas. But anyway, the thing is,
I was joking.
I'm trying to joke back. It's interesting though, because your name keeps coming up. I have this interesting idea about how you might have come to the case and things like that based on a couple of things that I've taken a look at that you've done. But why don't you tell us this story? Why the hell do you care about the Kennedy assassination? I have this feeling that you weren't born at the time it occurred. Neither was I, by the way. But you know, I have this feeling that you're younger than I am. And actually, I know you're younger than I am. But, you know, tell me about this. How did you get into the case? Let's start there.
Well, first of all, my aunt and uncle saw the motorcade that day. They didn't see the shooting, but they saw the motorcade. They saw him about 20 minutes before, and they went out with their school. And then when they got back, they got the word. A nun came running in and said, "The president's been shot." So I heard that story when I was a kid, but really I was into the Lincoln assassination first when I was about 12 years old. And I asked my parents, could we go to Ford's Theater? And they were like, yeah, no, but we can take you right down the road to Dealey Plaza. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, let's just see what this is about. So I went, they took me there, and, you know, and I watched a documentary or two, and I wasn't really into it, but I really got into it on the 50th anniversary.
Okay, because I was just about to ask you what year it was that you went to see Dealey Plaza, because different times, depending on when you went, you might have encountered different things. And after the 50th, the plaza was sort of rehabilitated a bit after the 50th. And, you know, I'm old enough that the first time I went to Dallas, actually, the Sixth Floor Museum had not been established yet. And a lot of the people that I know are much older than myself even. And, you know, it goes even further back to the point where there was a lot of wood missing from the fence. People kept stealing planks out of the fence, you know, over the years and stuff like that. So what year did you visit the plaza? When was it that you kind of went, oh, okay, I guess I'll go see where Kennedy was killed?
Yeah, I think that's like the 9th or 10th, maybe the 11th fence since 1963. But anyway, it was 2008 when I first went there. I was 12 years old. I was born in 1996. So yeah,
okay.
So 2008, and then 2013 I started looking into it more, and I just naturally believed the official story for about 2 years, and then about a year and a half, and then 2014, 2015, I found Pat Speer's website. He's a wonderful researcher and a great friend of mine, and he just if you go to his website, patspeer.com, it's just a plethora of information, and he's just a beast of a researcher, and he has so much details and sites and just.
Indeed. I've had Pat on the show, first of all, and I love the video series, The Mysterious Death of Number 35. Yeah. That is one of the, I'm so happy that I was able to reacquire a DVD of it not too long ago, because I loved it. And I remember when he was creating that set, and I think Pat is one of the most underrated researchers in the community, period. You know, it's amazing the stuff that Pat put together. So I'm really happy to hear a younger person that knows Pat, number one, and is aware of his work, because a lot of guys missed things, you know. Anyways, no, Pat's great. And I was so happy to even have him on the show, because for a while there, it seemed like he wasn't going to be doing any more work. And then he came back. He's still adding to that site, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a wonderful researcher. He's just a beast of a researcher. Yeah, so everyone go check out patspeer.com. And as a matter of fact, he and I did a 5-hour masterclass on the JFK assassination, which you guys can check out on my YouTube channel. It's 5 hours, but if anyone wants to know just about everything they ever wanted to know about the case, I would go check that out. So
okay. So now I'm getting. I didn't know that there was a 5-hour masterclass with him on there. I did look at a couple of your pieces up there, but I didn't notice that. I'm going to have to go back and check out the YouTube channel, and I'll give you guys the link to it. Do you have a short name for your YouTube channel?
No, it's just MT Douthit. But if you go there, that's where you can find the video that he and I did. So.
Excellent. Oh, by the way, I'm trying to put together somebody to help me with Dealey Plaza early on Friday. So I might want to talk to you off air about that real quick before we hang up, because I guess nobody organized a good look. Here's where this person was standing. Here's this particular historical spot in the plaza. And I was kind of asked if I could do that, but I said I need somebody to help me. And by the way, your name came up again. And somebody said, Matt would be the guy to try and help you out, because, I'm aware. I have all the information, and certainly I know where people were standing and all those kinds of things. But my slight visual issue, more than a slight issue, but that's okay. My visual issue, not only do I need a ride to the plaza, but I also might need a little bit of help making sure that I'm precise about some landmarks. So I'm going to ask you about that after we're done talking here, because I'm thinking we need to give people that as opposed to some of the other events that might occur on the knoll and around the knoll that morning. I think it would be good to give people historical context, show them where the Warren Commission's, star witness was standing, show them why that looks a certain way, and why it is that it might be a little unbelievable that you can tell how tall somebody is if you're looking up 6 floors, stuff like that. I might need somebody to help me out with it a little bit. And I was thinking about recruiting you and maybe Doug Campbell to help me out with it, but I'll bother Doug that day when I get there. Anyways, so that's great stuff. Anyway, let's get back to what it is that brought you in. So you get to visit Dealey Plaza. What grabbed you, though? I mean, was it like just the oddity of the space? Did you find it strange, the official story? No, you said you believed the official story for a couple of years. So, and by the way, that's the way I started out with the case. I thought maybe I could knock away all the conspiracy nonsense, and maybe I could make a clearer case out of this. Of course, I was dealing with it in the 1980s, being a teenager, a little bit older than what you're talking about at 12, but that's where I started, is around the 25th anniversary, because, I'm a bit older. I was born in 72 as opposed to being born in the 90s. Okay. So, anyway, but what really grabbed you about it?
It sort of just fell into place. Again, when I was 17 in 2013 for the 50th anniversary, that's when it really grabbed me. For some reason, in my young mind, I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna debunk all these crazy theories or anything." But of course, I knew any of the details. So like I said, a few documentaries here and there, and then it was, again, I found Pat's website, and in my mind, I wanted to make like this master volume set of addressing every point in the entire case. And then I was like, you know what, this isn't really original. So I literally shoved everything off of my desk, and that's when I started calling up eyewitnesses, particularly the witnesses in the JFK autopsy room that night. I spoke to everyone who was still alive back at that time. So this is 2016 when I placed my first call, and then I did the medical evidence for a few years, and then I decided to switch gears a little bit and focus on the Tippit case, which is a very, very underlooked topic.
Yeah, the Tippit case is really tough because it's the afterthought that's still after the thought, right? I mean, everybody focuses on the murder of Kennedy, the wounding of Connolly, and the death of Oswald. But, the Tippit case is sort of just like a tangential thing in a lot of cases, right, where people sort of ignore it. But it's important because this is one of the this is one of the things that helps build the case, allegedly, right, against Oswald, which you and I both know, kind of falls apart when you look at it. By the way, that means you would have had to have encountered William Law and his incredible, grouping of interviews that he did in the Eye of History. because, I mean, he started a bit earlier than you, and he put together an amazing group of eyewitnesses, whereas it concerns the body, the casket, the people at Bethesda, the people at Parkland, etc. So you would have had to have encountered, William Law's work as well, right?
Oh, of course I did. Yeah, he and I spoke to both of the same witnesses. In fact, I was writing a manuscript at that time. It was called the JFK, The Missing Witnesses. His book, In the Eye of History, inspired me to structure that book in a similar way, reaching out to these people. So, yeah, I have a great respect for him. And that manuscript it'll come out one day. Keeps getting a little bigger here and there, but it'll come out one day. But, yeah, William was a big influence on the structure of writing that.
Yeah, I mean, but it's kind of hard, for me, like when you say, okay, I could talk to all the witnesses, I'm thinking to myself, we lost quite a few by the time you started, which is unfortunate. And you have to go back now and look at a whole lot of other people's work in order to even get an idea about what some people saw, because there's so many of them have now passed away. Again, you're talking 2013. That's the 50th anniversary. So half a century later, people that were adults might no longer be alive. And I always like to mention Larry Sneed at this point, too, because he's a guy who collated a whole bunch of interviews of policemen together in a book called No More Silence, which is, an excellent and underrated volume of interviews that Larry did there. And a lot of people have passed, even some of the researchers that were great, and some of the people that guaranteed were also inspirations. And you looking at the medical evidence, I mean, we just lost Cyril Weck this year.
Yeah, book that you just mentioned by Larry Sneed, that book, every witness in that book that he interviewed is dead, except for Bill Newman.
Oof. Yeah.
They're all dead. And that was only 26 years ago.
Right.
It just goes to show, at one point at one point for the Lincoln assassination, it's like, this is it. The last witness has died right here. That's all we're going to get from witness statements.
Right.
Slowly getting there with the Kennedy assassination. There'll be a day where it's like, that's it. From 63 to this day right here, that's all we have of eyewitness accounts.
Right, and we'll just be left with what people like yourself, William Law, and others have archived. That'll be it, because you won't be able to talk to the dead, at least not according to what I understand, although some people disagree with me. But, anyway, here we go. So, all right, the medical evidence. Why the medical evidence, though? Did you think it was, as, David Lipton definitely coined it well when he said the best evidence? And I would say that a lot of older people than myself even often cite David Lipton for inspiring their desire to look into the medical evidence, not just because of his theories about body alteration and all that, although that is intriguing. There's a lot more to it when you take a look at Lipton's work. Anyway, I don't want to keep going into homages about other people's stuff. I want to talk about what it is you decided to do. So, take us through it a little bit. How do you wind up, doing a master class with Pat Speer of all people, eventually? I mean, how is it you get from, again, going to the plaza because you couldn't go see where Lincoln was assassinated to this point of doing a master class? I mean, take us there.
It's one of those things that just fell into place. We did the master class in April of this year, and what we did was we reacted to a hour-long presentation. Can you believe it? Reacting to a 1 hour presentation stretched into 5 hours. Mm-hmm. But what we reacted to was a presentation that Dr. John Latimer did at the famous JFK Chicago Conference in 1993. Mm-hmm. And for those that don't know, John Latimer was the chief apologist for the Warren commission report from 1968 until he died in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So so what the title of our masterclass is called Latimer Revisited: JFK Medical and Ballistic Evidence, and it tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the case, and it's also reacting in real time to the chief apologist and what his evidence or so-called evidence is. So,
yeah, Latimer's been an interesting character, and you're not the first people to ever react to something that he's done. But that idea that you're reacting to something that was done at the 30th anniversary 20 years later, right, is kind of rough. I mean, because, after all, Latimer really did convince a lot of people to, I guess, get on board with Gerald Posner's book and get on board with the idea that, again, it was the idea I started with, that this is too crazy. They have too many theories. This is all over the place. It must be, it only happened one way. That's a certainty, right? And a lot of these things and a lot of bad stuff is out there that doesn't show us, anything like resembling the truth or a look near the truth. So, again, what is it? Why did you pick that one, or were you inspired by somebody else to choose that one particularly?
Well, like I said, he was the chief apologist for the Warren Commission for decades and decades and decades, and he was really influential, as you said, on Posner, and which really all the arguments that Latimer did ended up in Gerald Posner's book. So while X amount of people might have bought Latimer's book, millions and tens of millions bought Posner's book, which was a New York Times bestseller, and he was all over the morning shows and everything. So it's like all this stuff that Latimer said, it kind of spilled over here, and it's kind of been in these talking points that he brought up have been there ever since. So we kind of wanted to challenge ourselves to really go point by point into what this guy was saying. And really, when you look at it, it just really falls apart on every single level. And believe me, when I say every single level, it really falls apart on every single level. But for no one who's ever seen it, it looks convincing. But, check out our video and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, let's move on to what it is you're going to do this year on the 61st anniversary. Dear Lord, I can't believe I'm still talking about this, It was the 25th anniversary that the media blitz that took place at that time was, I know we didn't have the internet and we didn't have a lot of things that we have today, but quite honestly, the JFK case was all over the place in 88. And it was on the radio, it was on TV, it was mentioned in popular culture, et cetera, et cetera. The 25th anniversary moved me to become more interested, even though in third grade I found it fascinating when it was sort of explained in short that Oswald died in police custody. And my 9-year-old hand goes up in the air and says, you mean to tell me this guy died, the cops didn't kill him, and it wasn't somebody that was in a cell with him that killed him? Oh, something's wrong here. And I knew nothing. I'm 9 years old. I just had a little bit of street knowledge, and that made no sense. If you're going to die in police custody, either the cops killed you or somebody else who's in the lockup killed you. This makes no sense. So how did this happen? I got shut down and didn't really give it that much thought, But that's third grade. Yeah. So anyway, but the media blitz that went on at the 50th, it definitely had to influence you. I mean, I noted it at the time. I was still recovering from Superstorm Sandy, I think, at the time, in New Jersey. So I wasn't going to any conferences or getting involved in the madness that was going to happen on the 50th because there were problems in Dallas and all that stuff. But I found it interesting, the new interest and the revival, sort of, that took place on the 50th. And maybe that's part of what pushed you. So tell us about what it is you're going to present this year. A little bit.
Okay. So last year I did a basic presentation on the Tippit, on the murder of J.D. Tippit. Just, basic facts about the case, and, here's an overall view. Something that a newcomer would be able to grasp. This time around, this year, next week, I'm going to be presenting something similar, but it's called the minimal facts approach to the Tippit murder. And this is based off of a method by Dr. Gary Habermas, who is a theologian. He set out to prove historically the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And he attempted to do so by inventing a method called the minimal facts approach. So what the minimal facts approach says, hey, I can take these small number of facts that everyone agrees upon, and say and then say, based on these 4 or 5 facts that everyone agrees upon, I can therefore conclude X. Now, he did that for the resurrection of Jesus. That's something totally different. But I wanted to use his method on the Tippit murders. And, of course, with the Kennedy assassination, there ain't much that we can all agree on. It was a Friday. Right. Kennedy was killed. Ruby died in Oswald was shot. Ruby died in prison. But very interestingly, there are a good size number of facts on the Tippit murder that everyone, no matter their school of thought, agrees upon. And I was like, wow. So I compiled this list of 10 facts, and I'm going to present them and say, based on these facts that everyone agrees upon, I can conclude X, Y, and Z about the Tippit case.
Now, this is a bit of a tough haul for you because, quite frankly, over 30 years in and out of the community, myself, I have seen several times people try to assemble groups of people for committees, for organizations, and they try to come up with a set of facts. Let's agree on this small set of facts and ideas. And you know what? There's always been a problem. I have never seen a more diversified group of disagreements in any other aspect of my life outside of the JFK research community. So trying to assemble a handful of things that everybody can agree to is very difficult because it seems like there is always a contrary something which has been unearthed, which has been revealed, which has been produced by someone, whether it is well backed by solid evidence or not. There is always an argument about seemingly everything. I mean, even the fact that Kennedy died has been argued against by some people. I'm not saying it's been credibly done. I'm just saying it's been done. So the idea that you can assemble even a small set of facts that, say, nearly everyone in that room that you're going to be speaking to can agree with is going to be a bit difficult, I think. So I can't wait to see how this goes. So the methodology makes sense. And in most cases, in most controversies, or, if you're on the other side of the pond, controversies, it makes sense. But this is a tough haul, especially with Tippit, where I think there's a lot of things that are difficult to nail down, and there's a lot of unanswered questions regarding the Tippit situation due to the fact that I think it was so long ignored by the majority of people that really could have unearthed a great deal of interesting knowledge about this. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much going for a nine. You have a point there. It's never going to be 100%, but I go to a 90-something% acceptable rate, between 90 and 95%, because there'll always be 5 or 10% of people who are jerks and be like, I don't agree with that. So it's not always 100%, like you said. Right. Some people think Kennedy doesn't, but even 80% is fair, I think. But yeah, you're right that the Tippit shooting is overlooked. I mean, it's as the late researcher Larry Harris once said. He said that the shooting of Officer Tippit has been regulated to footnote status in history. And he said that what happened over there on Patton Avenue and 10th Street may be central to understanding the assassination, but unfortunately it's been overshadowed by the president's murder and Oswald's murder, and it may be lost to history. But so,
well, I don't think it's entirely lost to history, but even if you achieve the 80% agreement in that room, I will be impressed. I'm just going to tell you that now, because again, it is extremely difficult. I mean, you do realize there are people out there that, and I'm not kidding here, I know it sounds like a joke, but there are people that think that JFK returned to the White House because he wasn't actually killed, and he returned as, guess what, Jimmy Carter. Okay, I have had people seriously tell me this. Oh, look at the pictures of the two of them. Don't they look similar? And I'm like, no, they don't. But I don't know what it is you're driving at. Yes, indeed, the assassination was faked. Okay, wasn't really his body. In fact, Tippit becomes involved in this. People think that J.D. Tippett's body was actually used for Kennedy's autopsy. There are people out there touting that theory. You're aware of this, right?
For that, there's a great quote. I believe it was it was Dick who was the civil rights activist who was with Robert Groden on Geraldo's show. Dick
Gregory.
Dick Gregory. Sorry, I wanted to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Having a brain fart there. Anyway, he made a great point about he said, quote, before you argue with someone, ask yourself, is this person mentally mature enough to grasp the concept of different perspectives? If not, there is no point to argue. So I kind of stand by that, you know what I mean, before I get into those fringe theories, so to speak.
Oh, I totally understand. And, look, my question always is, what do you have that you could possibly begin to consider entering into evidence in a court of law? Don't tell me about, oh, well, I looked at a picture and this looks the same. No. Tell me about what it is you think you could enter as evidence. Tell me what expert you would need to use or what scientific method you could utilize in order to get pieces of data that back up your supposition. Show me that kind of stuff before you start telling me about the wildest. I mean, look, if you're going to make extraordinary claims, you're going to need extraordinary evidence. So, how much of that do you have? Or are you just going to show me two pictures and say, doesn't this guy look like this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, because I've been through that enough. I mean, people trying to put George H.W. Bush at Dealey Plaza and all that. And, our friend Russ Baker there is not too thrilled with me. But even though he has come up to me face to face and shook my hand once finally, since a very awkward situation a couple of years ago. But, here we go. Don't show me two pictures and don't show me a blurry picture and try to convince me that the Rorschach thing is your evidence. Not good enough. You're going to need more. Anyway, but also the idea that does someone have the ability to grasp the sophisticated argument you're about to make? Yeah, that's a good way to figure out whether you're going to waste your breath or not. So, yeah, excellent. Anyway, so you're going to come out with these facts and you're going to explain this, and you're obviously going to give us a conclusion here, a summary conclusion, right?
I wouldn't say a conclusion. I would say based on this, we can most likely assume X, Y, and Z.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, my conclusion has always been not that Oswald didn't shoot Tippit, it's that the official story hasn't met its burden of proof. But based on these facts that I consider knowable history, most likely we can conclude, and I'll tell you all, X, Y, and Z.
And it's difficult because, again, I mean, we got mismatched rounds. We've got, somebody showing up with a casing for a bullet. Way later, after they allegedly turned over all the evidence, you've got conflicting eyewitnesses. You've got, a lot of stuff happening here regarding Tippit. Tippit wasn't even in the place he was supposed to be. You have the witness account that he's receiving a phone call, then goes into another direction. There is a lot of strange stuff happening here. And it's difficult to nail down. I got to be honest with you, it's probably one of the least informed areas of the entire situation for me, personally, because it's just so frustrating, to be honest with you. Trying to assemble a fairly good narrative that explains what happened once and for all is difficult. And accepting what the Warren Commission did is ridiculous. Anyway. But you're going beyond that. You're going to try and reassemble this and say, based on a few things that we can all basically agree on, this is what we can conclude, and that's the thing that they're going to get to see if they watch your presentation, either online or in person. Is there anything that, I don't know, that you could tell us about this present? I don't want you to give it away. I'm trying to think of how to ask this question without asking you to give away something big or good here. But I want to get an idea of how far you're going to go. I mean, are you going to explain the timing and the ballistics? And I mean, what areas are you going to really deeply focus on? Can you give me that?
What if I told you that you can take just any one of these facts and build a case off of that? You don't even need 10. You don't even need 5. You can just have your pick, any one of these facts, and you can say, based upon just this one fact, we can most likely conclude X, Y, and Z. It has to be the requirement for it to be a minimal fact is that it's well evidenced, and 2, that nearly every researcher accepts it.
Well, that would be interesting because, again, like I said, and I've looked at ballistics on this. It's a bit messy and hard to get things to be coherent the way I see it. The eyewitnesses are a mess, right? Because you've got, from my memory, I know that there was more than one. No, there's at least one eyewitness who said there was 2 guys there, which is weird because there's another completely conflicting eyewitness that absolutely says there was not 2 people there. You have the, like Aquila Clemens, for instance, has a completely different account that nobody took into account at the time.
I get so many, Chuck, you won't believe how many times a week I have people messaging me, asking me, what do you think of Mrs. Clemens? And I'm like, so I made a whole video just on her, so you guys can go. I want to try and put that to an end. So I'm telling you guys right now, just go watch that video.
There you go.
Because I get so many questions about Mrs. Clemens.
Okay.
Watch the video. I think you guys will find what you're looking for. So
okay, I'll put the link. I'll put the link in the show notes for the Aquila Clemens video specifically. So after his YouTube channel in the show notes, I should, if I remember to do this correctly, I'll put in the specific link to that video on his YouTube channel. So go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Aquila Clemens has been asked a lot, though. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that I don't. What if I told you that I don't consider testimonies to be strong evidence in the Tippit case? That's how bad the witness accounts are. There's no 2 accounts that match up. They're all different.
Yeah, well, that's what I concluded years ago, and this is why I threw up my hands. I've got nobody. You go even to the guy who gets on the radio and actually makes the call in. His account doesn't match the other guy who's picking up the shells off the ground and putting them in a cigarette pack, right?
Yeah. Let me give you a little sample. And this is from a list I made. 5 witnesses said it wasn't Oswald. 7 refused to identify Oswald. 4 said it was Oswald. 4 witnesses are worthless. 2 are useless. and 3 are suspect. So, yes, I don't consider these testimonies to be strong evidence. So ultimately, it all boils down to the ballistics, which is a mess.
Which is another mess. And why? Because, first of all, the strangest thing to me, which is kind of explainable because, okay, when they ship the handgun and they ship it with enough rounds in it to load it, they don't necessarily care if they put all the same company's rounds in it. And he might have only had what was shipped to him. But here's the thing. Those things don't match. They're from completely different companies.
The only way for it, well, you can fire different brands of shells in a revolver.
Of course you can.
The problem here is that they don't match each other. So,
well, see, there's your issue, right? And theoretically, now I don't remember the specific number, but you've got, let's just say, for argument's sake, 3 Western cartridge, right? And 3 Remington. Okay. And then when you take a look at the rounds, not the casings, let's say that's the casings, you look at the rounds, it's not the same as the casings. Like the casings don't match the rounds numerically, if I remember correctly. Isn't that right?
Exactly. So in order to get, so the only way around this to make it work is that either a 5th shot was fired, which, or and missed, and 1 shell and 1 bullet has never been found, or these were what we call reloads. Where you put, which you can do if you go to a gun store and you want to save money, but or if you have a kit to do that, which Oswald did not have. So the only other, really the only logical possible option to even consider would be if there was a missed shot. But if you look at the trajectory, it would have gone into the house across the street, and the guy in that house ran out, and he never said anything about, you ain't going to believe what happened. This bullet crashed into my house, so that's out the window. So I think it's just the only thing necessary to pin Oswald on this case is to take his handgun and to fire 4 rounds and substitute the shells that were found at the scene. That's the only thing needed to do that. So, and I think that in doing that, they probably messed up, and that accounts for the mismatching of the brands. So,
well, the other option that was given to me is that possibly 1 shell had been fired previously and was just in the revolver already fired, and when he emptied it, you end up with the wrong number, which I found strange because you still have to lose a cartridge, don't you? So 1 cartridge has to be lost, and then I find that almost credible considering that at one point didn't Fritz turn up with an extra cartridge, like in his drawer that wasn't turned over?
What happened was 3 bullets hit Officer Tippett, and then 1 was stopped by a button on his uniform, so it didn't really go in. So he was shot 4 times.
Right.
They only had 1 of these bullets, and then a quarter of a year later, they were like, "Oh, here's 3 more," and someone opens up a drawer, and it's like, so those wouldn't have been admitted into evidence. And with the shells were not entered into evidence for 6 days. And there's other problems with them, but other than that, we just have too many bullets and too many shells. I made this list years ago. Like I said, 4 bullets hit Tippett. 1 bullet supposedly missed officially. We have another paradox because another bullet was kicked out of the ambulance and onto the hospital parking lot by one of the ambulance attendants. As for the shells, 2 shells were found in the bush by Donnie Benavides. 1 automatic shell apparently was observed at the scene by Sergeant Jerry Hill. Later that night, two more shells were found by 2 witnesses on the side of their house. Said officially 1 shell is supposedly missing. Then 2 other witnesses at the car lot said that they saw the gunman discard shells, plural, on Jefferson Boulevard. And one of the Davis sisters' father-in-law, he said, "Oh, I kept one shell as a souvenir." So it's just there's just too many bullets and too many shells. I mean, hey, that's the JFK case for you. That's all I can say.
Well, in addition to that, there's some question that it's to somebody marking the shells, right? Because there was supposed to be, in order to maintain the chain of evidence, there's an issue with an officer marking a shell as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, it actually gets worse than that. There were other officers who signed those shells, and their initials are not on there. Now there is a GD. No, there's a cursive capital G. I'm trying to remember. There's a cursive capital G in one of the shells, supposedly for Captain George Doughty.
right.
But the problem, and so people are like, that proves this, and I'm like, well, the problem is that we don't know when he allegedly marked the shell, and plus, there's no mention of him marking it anywhere at any time until 7 months after the event, after the controversy with Poe's initials not being there, and Officer Barnes having trouble IDing the shells that are there now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is just hearsay. Oh yeah, so who knows? Doughty may have marked it later, but we just don't know. It's just hearsay. And the witnesses who found those shells can't identify it. So, like I said, this whole thing is just a mess.
Yeah, well, see, but I kind of wanted to show people that that's exactly what the problem is. It's not, it's not simple. So that's why I'm going to be amazed to see how it is you pare this down and show us, look, here's your agreeable facts, because this is not the only instance in the Tippit circumstances where you have confusing, contradictory, missing stuff, additional things that are coming up, and it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like we're missing something like a whole other shooter, okay, which only one witness said there were 2, right? There were 2 shooters, I think. But that's only one witness, and we don't. Anyway.
And one last thing on the shells, after all this mess that I just explained on the ballistics, in 1992 and 96, the lead detective Jim Lovell, he came in and he was like, "Actually, you know what? No one signed the shells at all, so it's a non-issue. We can just move on." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute! If no one marked the shells." If what you say is true, that no one marked the shells, there are initials in there today, then that means, so it's like he double made it confusing. So it's like they're trying to get out of the whole, trying to settle it down. It's like they just keep digging. But anyway.
Yeah, and the reason for doing this, by the way, this marking of the shells, is to show a chain of custody. If a cop picks up the shell, he marks it, therefore it was in his hand, right? So for years, people argued about this, and you're right, Lovell comes out about 30 years later and says, yeah, well, actually, nobody marked it. Well, then what the hell are the markings that we have on the shells for? Because there are some markings on some shells, right?
So in his attempt to try and just say, actually, it doesn't really matter, no one marked them, he just made it worse.
Right.
So again, this just never ends. And but in his own words, he told Joseph McBride on tape, quote, "Well, we had a, quote, little problem with the ballistics." Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You think that's a little problem?
Yeah. So this is a ballistics case. This is, I mean, you can talk about witnesses up, but like I said, it's a mess. No 2 witnesses tell the same story. This is a ballistics case. I'll say that up front. This is a ballistics case.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to see how it is you lay that out, because again, I'm rather confused all the way through this. I'm sure listeners are going, what in the hell? How do you sort this out?
That's just a little sample.
Yeah.
That's just a little sample, because I thought this thing would end, because, with JFK, it never ends. I'm starting to realize this Tippit thing doesn't end either, even though it's a smaller crime in a smaller street and with much less eyewitnesses and much less files than this. I've come to the realization it's just like Kennedy. It's not ending. There's always more stones to be unturned.
I'll tell you one thing I've observed with the JFK case, which is remarkable, and there's a whole industry devoted to, murder porn and whatnot, where people, show you on the forensic shows, well, then suddenly this piece of evidence came out and blah, blah, blah. Over time, even when cases go cold, over time, almost every murder case, right? You remove suspects. Suspects become removed one way or another because new things are learned. And after a while, a new technology emerges or whatever else. The suspect pool shrinks and the theoretical pool shrinks over time, one way or another, even if the case goes cold. And there's whole, like I said, TV shows, TV series devoted to showing you that over time, they figured this out because the new science of this. And this new thing came out. And now we had DNA evidence and so on and so forth. The only murder case that I know of where this doesn't occur is all the stuff connected to Kennedy. In this case, all we see is an ever-expansive pool of evidence, an ever-expansive pool of suspects, an ever-expansive pool of theoretical possibilities. And like you said, it just seems like it never ends, Matt. I mean, what do you think of that?
I agree. I absolutely agree. At this late date, all we can do is eliminate this theory, that theory, and this suspect, and this suspect, and just follow the evidence wherever it leads, wherever that may be.
You listen, I'm with you on that, and I still hold out hope that there is a possibility of getting down to the bottom of this, because some people have said to me over the years, look, all these years, all this work, people have investigated. Doesn't it seem to you, Chuck, like nobody's ever going to get to the bottom of this? And then they add on something like, well, maybe that's the way it's meant to be. Or maybe that's because there is nothing to get to the bottom of. Maybe it was just Oswald after all, And I shake my head at it and I say, no, it cannot be. There is no way for anybody to draw, even a half of a correct scenario here where you can prove the official explanations. You just can't do it. So we're missing something, yes, indeed. Does it mean that, there's going to be a smoking gun document that's going to come out? I mean, do I honestly believe that we're going to see a CIA document tumble out that says, look, we're the ones who did it and here's how it was done? No.
I personally think that there was a smoking gun document released in 1993. And that was the deposition of JFK's embalmer, Tom Robinson, because, for 30 years, even to this day, people say, oh, well, if JFK was shot from the grassy knoll, where's the bullet? Where's the grassy knoll bullet? Where is it? You can't show me the bullet. Well, where's the bullet? And in 1993, thanks to Oliver Stone's movie, all these documents started getting declassified. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, the testimony of his embalmer, Tom Robinson said that during the autopsy, there were 15 metal fragments removed from Kennedy's head. Those are not in evidence today. Mm-hmm. So why weren't they admitted into evidence? All that's admitted into now are two very small micro fragments, about the size of the tip of a broken pencil. So there's your grassy knoll bullet.
Well, either that or the grassy knoll bullet did indeed miss, because there is evidence of a bullet landing on the other side of Elm Street that was witnessed by some people. And I feel as though, the grassy knoll shooter could have existed, but also missed. And still, we have other things happening here. In fact, I'm one of these people who thinks he was struck from the front. Very much a tip of the hat to Sherry Feaster's work on that, quite frankly. But anyway, again, we can go in a lot of different directions here. And now we just walked right away from Tippit and went straight to Kennedy. But you're going to do your presentation on Tippit. And what are you calling it, by the way? You have a title for this?
Yes, sir. It is called the minimal facts approach to the Tippit murder.
The minimal facts approach to the Tippit murder.
Yes, sir.
And I would advise that you guys take a look at the articles that Matt has written at Kennedy's and King. There will be a link to his profile over there. And interesting website. That's the old Sitka website for you people who've been around for a while. And it continues on as Kennedy's and King. Any articles over there that you especially think people should look at, Matt, of yours?
Of mine? You know what? Check out the fact check I did on the National Geographic channel. That was, every major anniversary, the mainstream media always puts out this, major documentary that's pushed. So this is the latest one. So check that out.
Oh, was it for the 60th anniversary or was it for the 50th? Which one?
It was for the 60th anniversary on National Geographic.
Oh, yeah. There were some interesting things that came out during this past year and that year, indeed. A lot of stuff on streaming platforms. I got the one on Paramount, with the doctors again.
Yeah, that was filmed, like 11 years ago. So that was... Yeah.
Yeah, it was filmed around the 50th, but here we go. They released it around the 60th. But it seemed like every streaming platform had themselves some Kennedy stuff, right? Paramount, like I said, which was CBS or whatever before. I think Netflix is the only one that didn't run something new.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems like the mainstream media put so much emphasis on the assassination for the 50th anniversary that now they just don't care. It was sort of like a swan song. Okay, here's our effort. Goodbye,
They did want to tell us that, as far as, because they were briefed by the CIA, they did want to let us know that these documents that were tumbling out finally, pretty much they've released all that needs to be released, and there's nothing to see here, folks, except a couple of crappy things they brought out, which I really found very funny when CNN was working on it. And coming out and saying, oh, look, here's this thing that says there's an account for a shooter from the front. And they were pushing stuff on there that was ridiculous, as opposed to looking at, some of the serious stuff that was later on developed out of some of those documents. Like this weird account of somebody told somebody, a source over here said that there was a shot from the front. And it was like the document just sort of ends. And doesn't even, it's got no providence to it. You have no way of knowing who the source was or what the hell it is. It's just an anecdotal notation, and they called people out seriously to discuss that, didn't they? But never tell us about all the other stuff that's been unearthed. And also, even though there's still all this stuff and the Biden administration is being sued right now, because in 2017, the Trump administration didn't do it. And then, Biden gets in there and he doesn't do it.
Yeah, what happened, Mr. Mr. Deal Breaker, Mr. Art of the Deal? Is like, I'm going to release those files. It's going to be great. Big, beautiful files. One meeting with the CIA. Oh, yeah, actually, we're not going to be releasing them. What happened, Mr. Art of the Deal? Sorry. Well, come on. It was a big letdown. So,
well, what did happen? Well, you know what they're saying now is that now when he gets in this time, he's going to release the stuff. Yeah, because he's got RFK Jr. with him, and he's going to make him do it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not holding my breath. Okay,
he probably it's pretty cruel what he did to get RFK's endorsement. He's like, Bobby, if you endorse me, I'll release your dead uncle's big, beautiful files. I'll do it for you. And he's not going to do it. So that's cruel for him to play on his emotions to do that. That's my personal opinion, but
Well, what would be also interesting would be to release, some other stuff. I bet you the president could probably get some stuff released about his father's death, even not just his uncle's death, but. I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and see how that goes. What can I say?
Yeah, the LAPD. I don't think so on his father's death. The LAPD, is the most corrupt police force in that's a whole other.
Yeah.
I figured that out when I was like 12 years old. I was like, they cover this is Bobby's anyway. But yeah,
no, I get it, and believe me, it's even Vince Bugliosi once said that it was like obvious that there was a conspiracy there, but and wherever he's at, I hope it's good and warm. But look, it is what it is, and we're faced with these things now, but. Man, oh man, I don't know. I'm just not holding my breath over these files. I know that a lot of people are, and really, I wish to be wrong. But in 2017, I told people that even though we had waited 25 years, and we were waiting all that time, don't be surprised if it doesn't all come out. And guess what? It didn't. So,
Yeah, the main thing a lot of us want, including Jeff Morley, is the 50 files that are still classified on George Joanides. I mean, that's a big thing that's still classified. So
yeah, but Brett Kavanaugh put that to sleep for everybody. So you know that, right? It was Kavanaugh that ruled on that and killed it. Yeah. Anyway. Look, I don't want to get into modern politics with you, Matt, because God help us all. And besides, I'm exhausted from that. And I'm almost exhausted from trying to look at this Tippett case. But anything you want to throw in before we're done? Because I've been at you now for an hour. And I hope people are going to, get more interested. And even if you just want to tune in to see Matt's presentation, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Bob Groden will be there. I'll be the MC. There's a virtual presentation from Larry Hancock. There's a huge list of people that are going to be presenting. Alex Harris, I'm looking forward to again. That young man, that's the youngest person I've ever seen at a conference last year. Sorry, Matt, you were saying something?
I was agreeing with you. Yep, he's a good. Yeah, mm-hmm. No, he's a good young lad. So
yeah, I really like Alex, and I actually hope I get to hang out with him a little bit this time. I think he's going to be with us the whole weekend this year. And looking forward to his presentation and all of it, to be honest with you. So, yeah, the Lancer Conference will take place between the 22nd and the 24th of November, literally landing on the correct anniversary dates. So in the morning, I'll be going down to Dealey Plaza before we start the conference a little bit afternoon when Mike Swanson kicks it off. And anybody who listens to my show knows Mike and knows that he'll be setting the table perfectly for the rest of the conference. But do you know what day you're going to be speaking on, Matt?
I was originally going to be speaking on Sunday, but as of now, I'm speaking on a Friday morning instead of Sunday. So
right, okay. So we're actually shuffling things a little bit. Yeah, I know that's happening right now, but I'm looking forward to it, and definitely looking forward to seeing what you're going to do. And I urge you guys to take a look at Matt's work. And that master class with Pat Speer, that's got to be real good. I haven't looked at it yet, but just knowing Pat and his work, I can recommend it. So just that simple. Anyway, Matt, I want to thank you for doing this with me.
Hey, thank you very much. And for those listening, you can get your tickets at assassinationconference.com/tickets. So
there you go. Assassinationconference.com, and that link will be in the show notes as well. So remember this, guys, no matter who you are, where you are, when you are, I am merely Ochelli. All of you are. caller.
Yeah, I'm interested in the truth about the JFK assassination.
Right. Well, what do you want to know?
Judy Baker's wild claim, Oswald girlfriend, she knew Ruby and Barry, cancer weapons. Really?
I imagine I could claim I have 4 wheels. It doesn't make me a wagon, but okay.
Oswald was on the kill team and trying to prevent the murder of John Kennedy. Come on now. Has a real expert on the JFK assassination looked into her claim?
Go to Amazon.com, enter Judith Baker in her own words. You'll get results for a digital copy of a book where Walt Brown utilizes her own words and the known evidence in the case to get at, well, a different perspective, let's say. You can get Judith Barry Baker in her own words from the author himself, signed if you request it by contacting Dr. Brown at KIASJFK@AOL.com. It's a fun book and it actually dissects the many, many fantastic claims. Judith Barry Baker in her own words.
Thank you for all the great information.
This is James Corbett of CorbettReport.com, and you're listening to The Ochelli Effect at Ochelli.com.
The War State by Michael Swanson explains the great national transformation that took place and put the Kennedy presidency in the context of the times and reveals never-before published information about the Cuban Missile Crisis. President Kennedy would not have been assassinated if he had been president 200 years ago. His assassination took place in the context of the Cold War and the rise of the national security state. Before World War II, the United States was a continental republic. In the decade that followed, it became an imperial superpower. Generals such as Curtis LeMay not only wanted to invade Cuba, but knew that there were short-range missiles on the island armed with nuclear warheads that they could not destroy because they were on mobile launchers. Their invasion could have led to a third world war, and they wanted to go to war anyway. The War State by Michael Swanson reveals why and will show you what President Kennedy was up against. For more information, thewarstate.com.
Ochelli.com.
In Denial, Secret Wars with Airstrikes and Tanks by Larry Hancock. Secret wars became a staple of U.S. covert operations and are still happening today. Larry Hancock's book, In Denial, rips the cover off many of them. Using new files, it exposes things about the Bay of Pigs that no one has ever written about before. It shows why it really failed and why the United States did not learn from it. It also shows why other countries today are doing secret operations with more success. This is the book that puts what some want to deny into the light. In Denial, Secret Wars with Airstrikes and Tanks. Larry Hancock. For more information, go to larry-hancock.com. Pick up your copy of In Denial at Amazon.com in digital or physical form.
Revelation through conversation.
The views expressed by callers, co-hosts, or anyone else who happens to get on the air at Ochelli.com do not necessarily reflect the views of Ochelli.com or Chuck Ochelli, and we are not responsible for any stupidity which might ensue. Thank you.
Do you like history? Real history that you were never taught in schools? Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia by author Mike Swanson with new documentation never seen before that'll open your eyes to events that led up to this. Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia, 1945 through 1961. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. Why? The Vietnam War by author Mike Swanson.
Yo, this is Doug Campbell, host of the Dallas Action Podcast presented by Wall Street Window. And you are listening to the Ochelli Effect. Revelation through conversation.
The Ochelli.com radio network.